I know what's going to happen, though, in that home opener, whenever it comes, week 2 or week 3. I don't have the schedule in front of me. Those fans are going to be clamoring for number 2, for QB2, for Justin Fields. Because
if Russell Wilson falters,
right,
if Russell Wilson falters, yes.
If it's Denver Russ week 1 in Atlanta, and if the Steelers lose, or if they win because of a pick six or some defensive play that happens late, not because Russell Wilson drives them down the field for a touchdown or a field goal that makes the difference, you're going to have some of that angst. You're going to have some of that noise. You're going to have fans who were directing their ire toward Matt Canada last year very early in the season. I was there week 2, Monday night against the Browns, and the fire Canada chants were already full-throated. I mean, hell, they were chanting Fire Canada at Penguins hockey games.
They're saying it in 2022, so
right.
I mean,
but week two, they were ready, and I think that rubber band has been stretched to the point where if they see anything they don't like week 1 when they watch the game against the Falcons, they are going to make it known at the home opener that they want Justin Fields. Because so far, and we'll see, there's still one more chapter left in this 3-chapter preseason book. Justin Fields, I think based on what we saw on Saturday night, is the guy you got to go with, but I'll defer to the guy who's never had a losing season since 2007 and who won a Super Bowl, even though it's been a while. I'll defer to Mike Tomlin when it comes to deciding who should start the season at quarterback. Now, Justin Fields isn't conceding anything. Here he is talking about his attempt to earn the QB1 position in Pittsburgh.
I mean, I think I've shown, what I can do. I think, the time that I did have with the ones practicing in training camp, I think that went well. I think we grew a lot each and every day, but at the end of the day, like I said, it's not up to me. So, I mean, I'm just going to come in here every day, each and every day, the same person, being a leader for this team and work my butt off, and everything else will be in.
Do you think about it, or you just block it out?
I mean, I try to not think about stuff that I can't control. I try to just think about the stuff that I can control. So I can't control whether or not I'm going to be named the starter. I can control how I come in every day, how I work every day, and how I treat my teammates each and every day. So.
Justin Fields, I didn't make out everything he was saying. I always love the press conference in the locker room with a bunch of people talking, so you have to strain to hear what they're saying. But the bottom line is he didn't show up to be the backup. And when they traded for him in March after they had signed Russell Wilson, that was a surprise. We all thought it was going to be either or. And once they went Russell Wilson, didn't expect that Justin Fields would be the next guy in, and he does not show up and does not remain in Pittsburgh with this attitude that he's going to happily be the backup to Russell Wilson. So, and again, I think that he's shown more excitement and more ability to extend plays than Russell Wilson. But the one thing that I can't get past, and I assume that Mike Tomlin has a hard time getting past it, you have a wide open guy for a touchdown. I don't care if it's preseason, regular season, postseason. You have a wide open guy for a touchdown, and you sail that thing so far over his head that guy made a superhuman effort to jump up and catch it and still couldn't get a finger on it. That is a big check in the cons column when I'm trying to figure out whether or not I can trust Justin Fields with my offense.
It's playing within structure, right? I mean, you want somebody to be able to extend plays with his legs and make some plays out of structure. But when the play is there to be made in the structure of the offense, if you can't get that done, then that is absolutely a big negative. And I mean, it's one of the issues that Justin Fields had, frankly, when he was still with the Chicago Bears. It's part of why they moved on and they drafted Caleb Williams at number 1 overall, because it's sometimes Justin Fields could not necessarily get things done within the structure of the offense. That probably is a significant factor as to why Russell Wilson can still be QB1 for Pittsburgh, because he does show that ability sometimes, and maybe he's been doing it more in practice, to say, all right, the play is supposed to go here. This is what needs to happen, and if there is no offensive line issue in terms of, making sure that the pocket is still there and all that. I mean, that's the play you were talking about there, Mike, where it just sails way high over the dude. I mean, you have to be able to execute, so this is also one of the things that I think was an issue with Russell Wilson with Sean Payton last year. You remember that game at Detroit where there was kind of that goal line stand that they had and then Detroit had, and then Russell Wilson comes off the field and Sean Payton's like yelling at him. So that to me says more about, okay, there was something about a check at the line that was not called. I don't know all the complexities of the Arthur Smith offense, but there might be some ways where Arthur Smith can trust Russell Wilson to do some of those things at the line of scrimmage that maybe Justin Fields is not necessarily trusted to do. I think all of those things really go into the evaluation of who is the best quarterback for the Pittsburgh Steelers.
But I think at his best, Russell Wilson is a guy who can improvise when the walls start to close in on him. Let Russ cook is, I think, a phrase intended to apply to once he has the ball in his hands, because that's where he got exposed the past couple of years, the pre-snap stuff. There's nothing going on. That's something Sims noticed very early on. You see different quarterbacks with the gestures and the pointing and all the pre-snap communication that goes on. And with the Broncos, you don't see any of that. You don't see, with Russell Wilson there, you didn't see any of that pre-snap stuff. And they were having a hard time just getting the play communicated and get to the line of scrimmage and get the snap off before the play clock goes to zero. So that's part of it too. And I think that helped me understand that Russ has been and has made his way as a guy who can just make things happen with the ball in his hands, extend the play, find a guy open, fire it to him, kind of like the stuff that Justin Fields does. And Justin Fields benefits from the stuff that the fact that he's younger and he can get it done. And that's the other factor. You know, if Russell Wilson wants to say, and I don't have any reason to dispute him because we can't watch practice every day, but if I'm not worried about the games because we're doing great things at practice is true, then one of the important internal factors in deciding who the starting quarterback will be, what do the players think? And I don't care how good of a coach you are. And I know Mike Tomlin is a master at getting all of his guys pointed in the right direction, getting all of his guys willing to run through a wall and do everything they can and go somehow above and beyond what they think their personal limitations are to come together as a team that finds a way to avoid ever having a losing season, no matter how bad they look in the early stages of the season or how bad they look at the end of the season, yet they still find ways to win. It's still not easy to get your guys to ignore their lying eyes when they decide based on practice, when they just have that sense that Fields is better than Russell Wilson, we should be starting Fields. And you get away with it if you win. You can get away with it if you win with Russell Wilson. But if the offense struggles and if they're losing, those guys aren't going to be placated, even by a guy like Mike Tomlin. So that's a factor in this as well. What do the players think about which guy should be the quarterback? And if Mike Tomlin goes against that grain, it just raises the stakes for it to work.
It does. And that honestly is probably why this game with the Steelers playing the Lions this weekend is a little bit interesting, maybe more so than most games on the preseason slate this weekend because Russell Wilson is scheduled to play. And so this kind of goes back to what we were talking about earlier with the Steelers and what they did with Kenny Pickett and Matt Canada last year in the preseason. How much do they want to make Russell Wilson look good in this game? Because I don't necessarily know how many starters are going to be playing for that Detroit defense. And I don't think it's going to be many, if any. So if that's the case, then how are they going to look as an offense? Are they going to look efficient, right? Are they going to try to make themselves look efficient? Are they going to try to put Russell Wilson in the best position to succeed so that you can go into the regular season with some better vibes offensively? And you need to have that whenever you're going into week one. You don't want to go into week one not feeling good about yourself. So that's one factor that I think is going to be interesting to see because Russell Wilson needs to lead a touchdown drive. If that's all he's in for, then it's got to be one. If it's 2 drives or more, he needs to lead 2 scoring drives, right? Get yourself a touchdown and at least a field goal so that you see, okay, these are the things that we can do. We can be successful. It translates from practice into the game. And, you know, maybe Justin Fields can also do things with his legs and he can do some things with arm, but we see that things can go right, even if it's against Detroit's backups.
Here's the reality, too. Mike Tomlin will only do that if he believes it is the best thing strategically for the Steelers as they enter the regular season. He will not do it because the fans want to see it. He has a very strong, and I don't know that he does it on purpose, but he does not listen. Now, they listened when it was time to fire Matt Canada, but I think they were going to do that anyway. But he has a way of holding firm, holding steady, and sticking to what he thinks is right, no matter what the fans have to say. And they need to do something to get people feeling good, people in Pittsburgh feeling good about the selection of Russell Wilson as QB1 if he ends up being the starter. If it was settled, he would not be playing in this game. If it was unimportant, if practice was the thing to put the hay in the barn, they would not subject him to potential injury in week 1 or in the last week of the preseason as they prepare him for week 1. So, in Atlanta, they got their top 2 guys that aren't even playing, and I still don't know why in the hell they don't want to give Michael Penix opportunities to play since he's supposedly not playing all year long. But in Pittsburgh, both guys got to play because they still have to figure it out. And I don't really like not knowing going into the 3rd preseason game who your week 1 starter is going to be. I'd like to think that you have that settled at the latest, like the Raiders did, after the 2nd preseason game.
Broncos too, right? They settled on Bo Nix. And I mean, it was pretty obvious after the first 2 preseason games that that's the direction they were going to go in. But yeah, I mean, you can look at Washington as well, right? They settled on Jaden Daniels this week. It seems like all of these quarterback competitions, competitions in air quotes, as the case may be, for some of these places, we know what's happened and why, and it's not going into the 3rd preseason game. And that's kind of the way it feels right now with Pittsburgh. So that is, I mean, it's going to be significant what happens in the game because Mike Tomlin says it's going to be significant and how they weight things in stadium versus at practice.
Hi, it's Mike Florio. Thanks for watching PFT on YouTube. Hit subscribe for the latest news and analysis from Pro Football Talk.